Hello and welcome to BM8 Unfiltered. My name is Buchi and I am your host. This is a platform that was created for you to have a front row seat into Honorable Brian Mundubile's campaign and candidature for the 2026 general election. We understand Honorable Brian Mundubile is the leading contender for the 2026 general election, and on this week's episode, there's a lot for us to unpack, and I know you're itching to ask all those questions and submit all those questions. But as we get started, Honorable Brian Mundubile had an experience on the Eastern Province. So let's start with a recent experience in Chipata. You traveled to pay respects to late Paramount Chief Mpezeni. And the reception there was quite amazing from what I could tell on social media. But later on, Zambia police forced you out of Chipata. Kindly run us through what happened. And welcome, by the way.
Well, thank you, Butch. And it's a good evening to you. Good evening to all the viewers and the BM8 supporters, NRPUP members, the Tonse Alliance, Tonse Pamosi Alliance members, and all the Zambians. I'm happy to be here tonight.
So just run us through the happenings in Chipata, because we know that you had an amazing reception there. But later on, we saw police escort you out of Chipata. What really happened? What transpired?
Well, I think it's only fair that I start by thanking the people of Eastern Province, my traditional cousins, for the support that they showed to us as an alliance, and to all the members of the NRPUP, the Tonse PF Pamosi Alliance members, as we went to mourn our departed Chief Mpezeni. So we were there on Monday and Tuesday. I must tell you, Buchi, that the Easterners in Eastern Province turned out in numbers, first of all, to mourn the chief. And when we go to the funeral house, the reception was simply overwhelming. We were overwhelmed. And I want to thank them most sincerely for that support. Of course, what transpired later, which was on Tuesday, was most unfortunate, but not surprising, except that we did not expect the police to behave in the manner that they did. During an occasion like a funeral, you expect people to unite. At that moment, really, we are not thinking about politics. We are reflecting upon the memories that we individually and severally had with Chief Mpezeni. And of course, we're in the same environment. We met and greeted with colleagues, former MPs, former ministers. We were all, mourning the chief. So where the UPND got the energy to send and set the police upon us at Protea Hotel simply left us surprised. So ideally, when we got back from the funeral house, our intention was to take a break. Others wanted to spend the night. A few leaders wanted to proceed to Lusaka because they had some engagements in Lusaka. What surprised us was when we got a report that a number of our security personnel were actually picked up from within the hotel for no reason at all. Because the police, first of all, came to provoke our members. They began to chase our members out of the hotel, which from the last time I checked was a private property, a private business, and some of those members were actually staying at the hotel. So when they faced some resistance from some of our members who know their rights, they ended up being picked up and locked up. One of the people that they picked up was our chairperson for religious affairs. This is Dr. Cosmo Humba, who just walked out of the room to wonder why the police were harassing our members. And simply to ask became an offense. He was picked up and brutalized by the police. So Buchi is indeed unfortunate. And this is a very strong message that I want to send to the president and indeed the UPND, that the Zambian people are watching you. The Zambian people demand peace. The people of Zambia do not like violence. What we witness in Chipata is regrettable and most unfortunate. So, clearly, Buchi, when you look at what has transpired the past 1 month, you see what happened in Mazabuka. You see what happened in Monze. I think there were some incidences in Namwala. Look at what happened in Kabwe. Look at what happened in Chawama. Many parts of the country. And in all these areas, it's clearly the UPND that has been perpetrating violence. The people that have been wielding pangas, brandishing guns, are members of the UPND. We've been able to see that. We saw that in Mazabuka. It was reported there were members of the party that came in with guns, as it were. So we feel very sad that this is what the country can be reduced to. Especially that with all that, there's no record whatsoever that any of those people have been picked up. People were damaging property belonging to Bright Nundwe. And the videos are all over social media. We haven't got any reports to show that people have been picked up for malicious damage. And when you look back, Buchi, you have in mind Nixon Chilangwa, known to all of us, a person that is differently abled, accused of damaging some property somewhere, and he's been serving a jail sentence for a couple of months now, years. And yet, we have people that are doing that in plain sight, and there's no effort at all by the police to even go after those people that they can see. And yet the police are busy issuing threats day in, day out. So to the Zambian people, the power is in your card. 13th August 2026 is fast approaching. The question that I ask, are you ready to give a vote to this government that is applying selective justice, a government that would allow cadreism, allow their cadres to wield pangas, go all over, hacking people, and do nothing about it? Is that the government that you want to maintain? And yet the same government will turn to you and ask you to say, what are they coming to do? Do you want to go back to the panga culture? So it's only a panga when it's held by an opposition leader. It's never a panga when it's held and used by UPND cadre. When a UPND cadre hacks another with a panga, it's not cadreism, it's not violence at all. So it's most unfortunate, Buchi. And the Zambians should open their eyes and ensure that they turn out in their numbers on 13th of August to ensure that we get the UPND out of power.
We understand that some members of your security detail were picked up by the police following the confusion in Chipata. What's the latest on that?
Yes, they're still being held in Chipata. And of all things, Abuchi, the police now, in an effort to try and destabilize our campaign team, disorient our members' security detail, they are now charging them with aggravated robbery. There's always a story. You should look through all the cases against the opposition. There's always a claim of someone having lost a 20,000 and a laptop. Whether it's Mumbipiri's case, there are 20 other cases if you follow through. There's always a claim to say, I lost 20,000 in the process and the laptop. So there's some magical laptop and some magical 20,000 that always goes missing whenever the UPND have attacked their opponents. They rush back to the police to claim they've been attacked and also claim they've lost some 20,000 and the laptop. It's most unfortunate. The Inspector General of Police needed to up his game. Under my government, the NRPUP government will ensure that we clean up the civil service, will professionalize the civil service, we depoliticize the civil service. We embark on a merit-based recruitment approach so that some of the police officers, even at the senior level, like the police officers we saw in Chipata, do not find their places in the civil service. So that is a promise that we make to you, the Zambian people. We will change the civil service. We will start with the police service. Because what we've observed is that the police service has gone to its lowest ebb under this current government. And the promise that we make to you today is that you only have to endure this for the next 2 months. Beyond that, you'll be liberated. And to the Zambians, we are saying, remember the mistreatment of the many Zambians, some of whom are serving jail sentences when they shouldn't ordinarily. They are doing so because of political persecution.
You also issued a detailed statement condemning the pockets of violence that we've seen across the nation over the past few weeks. Could you please re-emphasize the need for free, fair, and violence-free elections as we approach August?
Yes, Buchi, I'll repeat that. If the call is on the president. President Hakainde Hichilema is the president of this republic. So he's responsible for the safety. He's responsible for the peace and tranquility of this nation. As commander-in-chief, he should take up the role and ensure that the elections are held under a safe environment. It's his responsibility to ensure that every Zambian is safe. It's President Hakaine's responsibility to see to it that the Electoral Commission of Zambia conducts a free and fair election. It's President Hakainde Hichilema's responsibility to see to it that there are no cadres, UPND cadres wearing police uniforms and going to man polling stations, as it were. Only professional police should be at polling stations. All those other cadres that may be carrying police uniforms, masquerading as police officers, should stay away from polling stations, because those polling stations are only supposed to be manned by genuine police officers.
Honorable, let's move away from the violence that has happened and let's talk about the Copper Belt for a moment. There's a big event that's lined up this weekend, and the presidential campaign launch, which is slated for Kitwe. Give us an update on how the preparations are coming for this significant event and why it's so significant for your candidature.
Well, we got a report this evening that the preparations are going on very well, and the people of the Copper Belt are eager, to get our message, as it were. I'm talking to the small-scale miners, the Jerabos are waiting for us. The civil servants are coming to listen to what we have to say regarding the civil service. The retired miners, the miners that are still serving, are all waiting to get our message. The business community, mine suppliers and contractors are all waiting to get the message from the president of the NRPUP. The marketeers in Chisokone market, the marketeers from Chingola, Chiwempala are all saying, Tuleisa, so I'm equally looking forward to being on the Copper Belt to speak to our people. We are going to find Nakulumutinta Nemisepela Pamakasa, waiting to get the message of hope, from the NRPUP president and running mate.
Congratulations on that. And the Copper Belt is quite an interesting ground for politics. Just tell me, how do you feel your popularity is on the Copper Belt?
Well, of course, the people of the Copper Belt are resonating well with our message. Remember that we are very focused on the poor. We are talking about the plight of the marketeer. We are speaking for the miners, the workers. We're also speaking for retired miners. These are people that worked and served this country with diligence. Some of them actually contracted incurable diseases because of their work. So they're looking for hope, a government that is going to look after them, beyond their service, as it were. The mine workers are looking for hope. Somebody's going to speak for them, because they are crying out to us. They are coming and saying, some of the investors that are running mines in this country are also running mines in the neighboring countries. And the difference is, in the neighboring countries, their friends get maybe paid in dollars, and their salaries are way, way above what they're getting here. So they're looking for a government that is going to speak for and on behalf of the workers. So the miners are waiting for us there. The mine suppliers and contractors are out there wondering why government cannot go to their defense or to assist them get some guaranteed business from the mines. So they've got hope under the NRPUP, because we've made it very clear that we will enact laws that will guarantee minimum of 50% business to the local community. Yeah. So this is why most of the people are actually looking forward to the rally on Saturday.
Well, we understand mining on the Copper Belt is the main bread and butter for the people on the Copper Belt, and also the young people on the Copper Belt also depend on mining, Honorable. I just wanted to ask, because last time we spoke, you said that you will legalize all the so-called illegal miners. How are you planning to do that? Not to preempt what you're going to say in when you're launching your campaign there, but I would love to just for you to give us a brief of how you're going to do that, and how you plan to engage the people on the ground as you're doing that.
Well, first of all, we are very clear, Buchi. An investor should have no place on the dump sites. Okay? Those are dump sites. So we, under my government, will discourage investors from coming into Zambia, and they begin to work on the dump sites. These are dump sites. This is waste material from mainstream mining. So those dumps are strictly for the youths and strictly for the Zambians. Yaliama Black Mountain, Yaliama dump site, teaba investor yo. By investor tukala wapela ma licenses, muma greenfield mines. So ama Zambians abengi, small scale miners, will get started from these dump sites to build capacity in mining, to acquire some capital, acquire some equipment, so that later, in line with the Tonse Manifesto, where we promote local ownership of these mines, we want Zambians to start small, and we see them through. We give them opportunities to run mines. So those dump sites, first of all, will be reserved for Zambians. So now, in terms of formalization, we'll ensure that the Ministry of Mines gets involved to ensure safety in the mining activities, to also ensure environmental protection, and also to educate the small-scale miners on financial management. So many other aspects of running a business will be taught to these youths. We'll put them in incubation. We'll put them in hubs where they'll be given structured skills to be able to run a business. So when you talk about formalization, number one, we'll ensure that they are mining legally, meaning the issue of licensing comes in, whether it's around the dump site or in Kikonge gold mine. Our promise to the youths is that Kikonge mine is their mine. Tukawa Wesesha will give them back that mine, but will not give it to them in the state that it is. Okay? We'll ensure that it's properly surveyed, it's properly marked, then cooperatives and are given licenses. They are helped with equipment. And around the Kikonge area, there will be an aggregator who will serve as the primary market for whatever gold is being mined there. They'll get a fair price for their gold. So, simply put, Buchi, there's a big brother. Remember, in this process, BM8 plays as a big, he plays as a big brother. So, we introduce a big brother, an aggregator, who's going to come there with capacity. Now, because the miners there are all licensed, they've got licenses, they can be identified. It will be easy for the aggregator to even advance them some money towards buying equipment and being able to settle and mine properly. So when this small-scale miner supplies to the aggregator, he recovers part of the advances that he gave. So that's one way we are going to grow the small-scale miners. That is one way we're going to formalize small-scale mining. It's not only in Kikonge, by the way. We'll do that also in Kanyelele, in Mpika. We'll do that in Rufunsa. We'll do that in Petauke, where all these deposits are. So that's one way we're going to migrate this informal mining, informal illegal mining, into a formal sector. Those miners will soon start paying taxes. They will pay NAPSA and many other obligations to government, as it were, because it will be a formal sector. But they'll also be respected in the manner that they'll be doing their jobs. We are actually training employers. Remember, as NRPUP, we took a two-pronged approach in creating employment for the youths. So one of them is by building youth-owned enterprises. That's exactly what we're talking about in these mines. And the other one is to make youths employable by imparting skills in these youths, and also through apprenticeships and work experience pathways. So these are some of the ways in which we're going to secure or reduce unemployment within the youth, including in the mining sector.
Well, your opponent, President Hakainde Hichilema, the UPND, just launched their manifesto, which is a 56-page document, and they have 15 targets between 2026 and 2031. You launched yours close to 2 months ago. What do you think makes the Tonse Pamosi Alliance manifesto different, and how is it far better than what has been launched by the UPND?
Well, what makes the Tonse manifesto better and the people's choice is that, firstly, it's centered on Zambians. The Tonse manifesto speaks to Zambians, about Zambians, and for Zambians. That is the difference. So if you open the first page of the manifesto, it talks about moving the women and youths from the margins to the center of policy and economic transformation. That is a major difference. So remember, a manifesto can have very progressive ideas and policies contained in it, but it has nothing to do with Zambians. Some of the manifestos I'm seeing are not talking about Zambians. Okay? They're going to produce that, they're going to produce that. They will enrich the rich. They are for the foreigners. So the difference, the Tonse manifesto is for the Zambians. The other manifesto that I've seen is for the foreigners. So Zambians, look out for a manifesto that speaks for you and about you. And that's the Tonse Alliance Manifesto. It's Nakulumutinta Nemisepela Pamakasa. That's our focus. We can challenge other manifestos. There's no manifesto that is talking about Zambians. This one, our manifesto, is talking about Zambians. The Zambian youth, the Zambian woman, describing the lived realities of an average Zambian today. And that is the beginning. That's where we begin to address the issues of the Zambian. Moving them from the margins to the center. If you have a center, center ya manifesto. Everything that we talk about is centered on Nakulumutintane Misepela's welfare. In the other cases, you see that the billionaires will get richer. The big companies will get bigger. We are not interested in that. Our focus is on the Zambian. So that should make a very big difference. So we speak for the Zambian people. Our manifesto is based on the challenges a Zambian faces, whether it's a civil servant, whether it's a mine worker, whether it's a marketeer, whether it is a student. So we get all the Zambians, we put them together and look at the challenges that they face. And that's what the Tonse Alliance Manifesto addresses. It does not address the challenges. It does not increase the profitability of foreign companies per se. It is not focused on making business easy for the people that are coming from outside Zambia, but making business easy for the Zambians. That's why we're talking about the local content. So everything about the Tonse Manifesto is about Zambians. And the other manifestos, well, it's up to you to judge. But the cursory look and view that I had, I immediately picked that this was a manifesto for the foreign companies and foreign entities. So, yeah, which I invite you to read through this manifesto.
Well, I was going to ask to say he promises to double Zambia's economy and also get rid of load shedding completely by producing 10,000 megawatts of power by 2031. These are some of the key targets. Just wanted to get what your thoughts are on those.
Well, some intelligent young man had once asked me a question. He asked me, we're talking about manifestos. And he said, Honorable, assuming you have this manifesto and the Zambian people vote for you based on this fair-looking manifesto, and you fail to implement what is in that manifesto, will you go ahead and come up with a new manifesto, or will you simply continue with the same one that you failed to implement? I laughed and I said, well, if it so happened that we failed to implement what is in the manifesto, it would only be prudent to wait and finish what is in that manifesto before we proceed to the next. Yeah, so when you look at the UPND manifesto, the new one, I think it was not necessary for them to come up with a new manifesto, because some of the things they're talking about are things that were promised to the Zambian people in 2021 and then were not implemented. So there was no need to come up with a new manifesto. It was a question of just continuing with the old manifesto. If you have a manifesto and you implement less than 60% of it, there is no need for a new manifesto. If what you have done is only between 10 and 15%, as the case is with the UPND, there is no need to come up with a new manifesto. They could have just continued with the old manifesto.
Well, many analysts believe that the outcome of this election will be shaped by the youth vote, because the youths make the majority of the Zambian voters. What special message do you have for the young people that are voting in this election?
Well, the simple message that we have for them is that we are going to create employment for the youths. Misepela zalelo, the biggest challenge walinayo is lack of employment. Youth unemployment is over 20-25%. That's an emergency. So, chameni tizachita ise. If you took a chitaifwe, number one, kumuno kuti tuapanga inchito sha misepela. Imisepela shakwate sha nchito. Isha nchito temu government femweka yo, namu private sector. So, tukwete inchila shiviri. Number one, tuwalachita promote ama business, ama kwevo yalia ayama Zambians, especially misepela. Number two, ma training ayo engalengo kuti misepela shikwate nchito ishisuma. You would say in English that we'll have a two-pronged approach. We'll promote one in trying to create employment for the youths. Number one, we'll promote youth-owned enterprises. Number two will be to train the youths and make them employable. Them mutenga oil, vasala vija, mugulisa stock feed. Uja farma saluza sagulisa raw cotton. Mavuto ya mbili olo mutengo wa cotton wagwa, but ngati mulina mababy ginaries. Mwachita process ija cotton mutengo wenda pa mwamba, mutenga na maby products mugulisa, mafarmers ilo ngati waliko. The same will apply to tobacco farmers. The same will apply to sunflower farmers and soybean farmers. The notion, Buchi, for us are downstream industries, creating value chains, creating agro-processing parks. Remember, we're creating employment through value addition, through industrialization. So we're going to save our youths jobs. We're going to create jobs for our youths through value addition, as it were. Be it in the agricultural sector, be it in the mining sector, be it in the tourism sector. So the principle in the Tonse manifesto revolves around employment creation through industrialization.
Your mantra, Nakulumutin Tapamakasa, which has resonated very well with the Zambian population. Why is the woman so important to you? Because time and time again, Nakulu Mutinta Pamakasa keeps coming up.
Well, these are our mothers. They're people that have looked after us. In every community, every society that you go to, women play a very, very important role in bringing up children. So many a time, there are many children today who are doctors, professors, presidents, as it were, who were just looked after by women. So we want to amplify the role of a woman, especially a poor woman with no means at all, suffering with her grandchildren, managing to raise them, send them to school, and they later bring hope. But that can only happen when there's a government in place that looks out for that youth. Remember, the grandchild, Wabana Kulumutinta, cannot be in the database because nobody knows that child. So, Ulomwishkuru Wabana Kulumutinta will only have an opportunity when a government like the NRPUP government comes in, a government that will provide opportunities for all. Are we together? A government that will not be selective. A government that will not make appointments based on party affiliation. Remember, Nakuru Mutinta doesn't belong to any political party, meaning her grandchildren are not UPND members. They are not PF members. They are not NRPUP members. But they are Zambians who deserve a chance to get a job. Nakuru Mutinta has sacrificed. She has suffered to educate her grandchildren. They even graduate. So it's most rewarding for that grandchild of Nakulu Mutinta to be given an opportunity to serve, to get a job so that he gets back to the grandmother and begins to assist her in, doing things.
Majority of these women, like you've earlier alluded to, their biggest challenge is the cost of living, which is north of 11,000 kwacha, 10,000 kwacha. And these women depend on farming for them to have their daily needs. What are you promising them in the manifesto, and what will happen when you become president come August 13?
Well, Buchi, I will not comment much on the other promises that were made where milimi should have been at 50 kwacha today, $1 should have been at 10 kwacha, fuel at 15 kwacha, fertilizer at 250, no load shedding. There were lots of promises that were made. Like I said earlier, Buchi, there was no need for President Hakainde Hichilema to launch another manifesto. Really, I mean, when you go down the list to look at how many things they promised and see how many boxes they're going to tick, you will agree with me that there was no need completely, to launch yet another manifesto, as it were. Yeah. So, in our case, we are being very practical. Number one, we've demonstrated to say we'll focus on the youths. If you look through, you'll find that even most of the positions within the alliances, we are beginning to put young people in high positions. We are putting women in these top positions, as it were. That is moving them from the margins and placing them right at the center. So we are talking about improving the cost of living by firstly providing employment. We're providing employment through industrialization, as it were. Then when you go further, there are a number of things that we're doing. All we had to do, we looked at what the UPND did wrong and realized in areas where we could improve, we are doing just that. Look at the procurement systems, especially to do with fuel. Today, the dollar is at 17 kwacha, but fuel is at 30 kwacha. When I served at the Energy Regulation Board as a chairperson, there's one thing that we realized, and the price of fuel always revolves around $1. That's how the system works, wherever you go. Okay, that is why we always endeavor to bring the exchange rate down. When the exchange rate is down, because fuel ideally should cost around $1, $1.05, $1.10. Now, it's 17 kwacha, but the fuel is at 30 kwacha. So we're actually paying $2 for fuel. Now, some of the reasons why we're paying so highly for fuel is because of corruption. If you look at the usage of Indeni and the pipeline, it's mad with corruption. We have some known companies that had been supplying fuel at the cost of $165 per ton. When the IMF pushed the Zambian government to implement the open access policy to allow other oil marketing companies to supply fuel through the pipeline, the same companies came and tendered for fuel at $55 per metric ton. So the question that you ask is that if you look at the 3 years this company was using the pipeline, how much did the Zambian businesses lose? From 165, there was basically 110 who were paying 3 times more to this particular company. How much did the Zambian people, the poor Nakulumutinta Pamakasa, was paying for that fuel? Through sugar, when she buys sugar, she buys millimil and many others. So the example I give, those are some of the areas we'll look at to ensure that we weed out corruption, reduce the cost of commodities through the reduction of the cost of fuel, as it were, and improve or reduce the cost of living on Nakulumutinta Nemisepela Pamakasa.
So after Kitwe, after the Kitwe rally, where does BMA let me just ask that question again. Sorry. So after the Kitwe rally, where does the BMA mania that's currently happening take us? I say this because the message is getting across different corners of the country, and the mood is slowly shifting. So where are you going after Kitwe?
We're going to Northwestern Province. We are going to Solwezi. We are going to Mshindamo. We'll later go to Mongo. We want to go to Nalwei. We want to go to Luampa. And later we'll go to Southern Province. Southern Province looks very good. We want to go to Wengwa. Go to Monze Central. We'll come to Mazabuka to see our people there. The campaign period has started. So we are really going around the country to talk to our people, give them hope. A number of our people, including those that we met in Eastern Province, were actually expressing a sense of hope to say, well, this is a sigh of relief. We know that a government is, the Tonse or NRPUP government is coming in to come and attend to most of our challenges. So these are all Zambians, Abuchi. It doesn't matter whether particular regions are not our strongholds, but the Zambians that are there need to listen to us. They need to hear the message of hope. They could be living under stress and they can't speak out. But I want to go and tell the people there to say, in the next 2 months, you'll be able to speak. You'll be able to express yourselves freely. You'll be able to criticize government without being arrested. We are saying to the Zambians, the youths in Mongo, the youths in Livingstone, the youths in Solwezi and Chavuma, that in the next 2 months, under the NRPUP government, you don't need a lawyer to make a comment on social media. You will be free to express yourselves.
Why is it important for people to critique you when you're in office? Why do you think that is important? Because you've mentioned that.
We are people's servants. We are people's servants. Servant leadership is what we provide. We are going to beg for votes right now through those rallies. We are presenting a manifesto. If at all we depart from what we promised, the people should come up and critique us and say, no, but you said the dollar will come down to 10 kwacha at 14 hours. It hasn't yet come down. If they remind us of what we are talking about, when the youths in Nakulumutinta come up and say, you said you move us from the margins to the center, we are still at the margins. Why should I get annoyed? Because we are making that promise. Why should the Zambian people in the rural areas come up? Why should we criticize them? Why should we frown upon the criticism when they say, look, the universal health coverage, the healthcare system is not working. The UPND collapsed NIMA, and NIMA is still collapsed when he promised to revive it. Why should we get upset? So we must allow people to speak out. It also shapes our performance, because then we'll be reminded of what we are supposed to do. So we are promising the Zambian people that a government is coming in, a government that will be able to critique objectively, you'll be able to speak out.
Are you promising to repeal some laws that could be preventing people from critiquing, as you're putting it?
All oppressive laws will be reviewed. There's no two ways about it. Zambians need their freedom. The freedom that is contained in the Constitution, the fundamental rights of the Zambian people. So there will be serious review to ensure that we don't take away the rights that the Zambian people should ordinarily enjoy. So this is what they must look out for. So we must go to Zambezi. We must go to Chavuma to go and explain to the Zambian people that this is what we have on the table. This is what they're going to get as the NRPP government comes into power.
Well, this is where we're wrapping our conversation. But as we wrap our conversation, I just wanted you to speak to the woman in Chisokone right now who will be thinking about coming to see you tomorrow, and maybe the young people in Musakile and all the other different parts of Kitwe.
Yebani ne mfe mu Chisokone tuleisa ku Kitwe nimwe tukonkele ukuisa umfwefe mwikele n'okumuna okuti pala mulebo mbela iliya twaisa mumaka twapanga po bwino mulebo mba muchinshi tekula suka fye iyo okutila mailo mwamfwa chawe ino market mulebo mbela mo wachisha kuma Chinese amachinese wakesa towa bakesa ikala tuleisa mukumiego okuti apo mwikele epo mukekala tukawamiapo pakuti mulebo mba bwino.
Well, that's where we wrap our conversation today. This has been BM8 Unfiltered, your front row seat to Honorable Brian Mundubile's campaign all the way to August 13. My name is Buchi. Catch us again next Thursday, same time, space, same place. And I also want to say thank you to everyone who is sharing these videos. Thank you to everyone who is making sure that they put this on the various platforms and doing reviews. Thank you. See you.
A man is only as good as his word. Nearly 5 years ago, you gave Bali and the UPND your vote because they promised to fix Zambia. Fake promises like these.
Farmers, this is your campaign so that you can buy farming inputs at a lower cost. Instead of the 600, 700 kwacha per bag, so that you can get fertilizer at a price of 250 kwacha.
Instead, fertilizer costing as much as 1,350 kwacha a bag.
Why is there no load shedding in Saudi Arabia? And there's load shedding here, where there's rain, where there's water. There's no rain, there's no water. Brain power, thinking, vision, ichimono. There's no issue of climate change. It's the leadership, it's the vision that is lacking.
Instead, 4 years of punishing load shedding, followed by more expensive electricity. Zambians are tired of 10-point gimmicks, tired of lies, tired of endless fake promises. On 13 August, vote for Brian Mundubile as president and Makebi Zulu as vice.